Hey guys, alright, so it is finally that time. I officially have 610 miles on the 2026 Kawasaki Ninja H2, and although it does feel a bit premature to do a review of it, especially since it's been in the break-in period, I figured a good compromise would be to just talk about and explain some of the pros, cons, good things, bad things that I've encountered with it over these 600 miles. And I'm just going to leave power out of the conversation. I might even just touch on it very briefly at one point, but I'm going to try my best to at least put something fast together talking about how I've felt about the bike and my experience with it leading up to this point. Because I know that in the future, when I do a more in depth, more intellectual review of it, something with a little bit more knowledge behind it, I can compare and contrast my understandings now versus my understandings then. So let's jump into it. All right, so first and foremost, as some of you guys know who have been watching, I came straight from a 2022 Kawasaki ZX6R and skipped over the leader bikes entirely straight to the H2. And I'm not gonna lie, I was a little nervous at first, not only because I'm essentially doubling my power, but because I noticed that the curb weight was drastically different. I was going from 425 pounds all the way up to 525 pounds. And I was really worried about how that 500 or that 100-pound difference was going to affect the bike as a whole. And furthermore, I was also kind of concerned or interested in seeing what happens with the ergonomics of it because it was such an insanely rare bike. I've only ever seen one in person before, and it was an extremely clapped out, trashed model of one that was definitely like 8 years old or so. And it didn't really share anything with the newest gens of them. And so it was kind of hard and scary because I've sat on Hayabusas and ZX14s and I was like, whoa, these are boats. I do not want something like this. Yet I was able to sit on and appreciate the Aprilia RSV4. I was able to sit on and appreciate like the R1 and the ZX10R. And of course, the ZX6R. And although the ZX6R, it was definitely the one of the most uncomfortable bikes. But that's come to, like, you expect that. It's not something that's going to be a surprise. But I was surprised to find that the ZX10R and the R1 specifically were more comfortable ergonomically than the ZX6R. And the only thing I could go off of was one forum post from 3 years ago, someone saying they have an R1 and an H2, and the H2 was more comfortable ergonomically than the R1. So I just kind of had to go off blind faith. There was none that I could sit on, none that I could try. You just had to literally put your money where your mouth was and take the risk. And I pretty much prayed to God that it wouldn't be as uncomfortable as that Aprilia RSV4 was. So I took the risk and I was extremely satisfied to find out how comfortable it is. And I'll definitely say that I am 6'1", so for my height, it is actually a very comfortable bike. And in fact, here, I'd really like you to take note of how this seat is set up. So not only is it a very wide seat, but whenever you're at a stoplight and you're actually forced to put your leg down, this is rather shaped in just the right way so that you can put your feet down and you don't feel like any part of the bike is digging into you. You're able to stay at a light and sit on it in very comfortable ways regardless. And then when you finally decide to get on her, both this and these parts here grip you very well. Everything about it is designed with the thought that you're either going to be at rest, cruising, enjoying yourself, or hauling butt. And it made sure to find a way to be comfortable in all of those scenarios. The other thing I will say is really neat that I've learned over these 600 miles is the exhaust from top to bottom is all titanium. So it's going to end up developing that blue hue. And then the rest of it, yeah, you can even see here. Yeah, the entire exhaust is all titanium, which I'm told has significant benefits. But one of the funny, unique traits about it is that it will develop the blue color. The other thing is that I can't really say that the camera does a justice to it, but the paint on this is absolutely gorgeous. It looks like a mirror or chrome, but I'm trying to get it just right so you can see all the sparkles in the paint. And the fact that it is a self-healing paint is phenomenal. I'm embarrassed to say, but not too long after I got it, I accidentally failed to carry my knee over just right, and I accidentally caused a small mark right on that edge there that after being in the sun completely disappeared. It is gone entirely. I can't find it anywhere, which I'm extremely happy about. The electronics and technology on this bike is phenomenal. I cannot praise it enough how much technology this has put into it. Between the launch mode, the traction control, the quick shifter up and down. I mean, you can do and customize everything with the suspension. You've got the nice Öhlins rear. You really seriously get some great bang for your buck here. And another thing that I think is quite cool on it is the mirrors are very wide, very big, and they work just right. The cool thing about the actual holders of them, they're like metal. And they look very similar to wings. And that's no mistake, actually. Because when you have 240 horsepower push into that wheel, the front end, when you start really getting on her, she wants to come up. And the bike does a great job at doing everything in its power to try to keep that front end down. But if you do get a little too excited and it does get real loose and you go into a wobble, it already comes with the Öhlins on it to try to help you prevent any sort of issues, speed wobbles, etc. And the brakes and clutch are all steel braided. None of that rubber line stuff. And I definitely do not have to go into detail about how crazy the engine is. The fact that that supercharger makes so much noise, even at an idle, just kind of casually sitting at a light, you cannot help but to hear the intake making a constant, like it's just sucking air. And it is just a very impressive sounding machine. And I know some people absolutely hate how the exhaust looks, which I can understand. I do not know what kind of complications I'm going to run into when it comes time to change my tires and I do the single-sided swing arm and I take everything off. I don't know if I'm going to run into problems with the amount of room I have, if I'm going to have to take the exhaust off to perform that service. I don't know. But the fact that people put crazy loud exhausts on these things blows my mind, because the thing that makes this so different and so amazing is the supercharger's chirps and just the sounds that it makes. And when you do that, you completely cover it all up. You might as well just buy a ZX-10R at that point. Let alone the train of thought you'd have to be like, After tax and everything, I'm going to buy a $40,000 bike and just start chopping parts off of it. I can't say that makes any sense to me. As far as maintenance goes, this should be an extremely easy to maintain bike. Everything you need to do to change or adjust the chain is all right here, easy to access. Everything's in a nice, easy to get to area. All of the services can very easily be performed by the owner as long as they know what they're doing. I mean, even the train of thought of where to put the filter and everything is all wonderful. I'm so happy with all of the design choices that was made here. You can tell that it wasn't just put together by engineers who wanted to put something together on a next level, but they worked with all of the people and all the mechanics, and everybody came together to make this marvel as amazing as it is. And honestly, there is going to be a learning curve with this bike. There are things that I'm going to have to develop and get used to. Coming from a 600 Super Sport straight to this beast is I'm not used to having such a heavy clutch. Not that it's caused me any issues of any kind, but it's something you got to get used to. And I'm not used to having a Rideology app that connects to my bike and does all this cool stuff for me in addition to it. And having the power of a 1000 is unreal of a jump. Not that I went hard on it. I broke it in properly. So I'm looking forward to this oil change and first service to be able to start hammering on it a little more just to kind of get used to it and see what it can do. But there's only really one complaint that I have so far, and it's that there are no fuel gauge. From what I'm told, it is very normal and common for motorcycles to not have a fuel gauge on their 1000 counterparts. However, I gotta admit, it would have been really nice to have one, but I don't want to make it sound like you just end up stranded or you're constantly going to a gas station, because it does have a fuel light just like everything else that comes on when you're down to your last gallon. And 1 gallon of gas is still plenty good to get you anywhere within 35 miles or so. So for me, where I live, that's plenty. Like, I would pass dozens and dozens of gas stations before I would run out of gas. So there's no problem for me on that aspect, but it would have been nice to know exactly how much fuel I have and what level at all times. But if that's really my only complaint, that is a heck of a win. Otherwise, I don't know too much about this aspect, but I am told that it's going to eat through tires very fast. We'll see what actually happens. I know that this tire it came with from the factory is not doing so hot, but that doesn't mean I can't put a good tire on it after the fact. So we'll see what happens in that aspect. I wish there was more to say. I'll definitely do a cold start for you guys just so you can hear as she runs, but there's really not a whole lot else. I hate to say it, but you would think 600 miles is a lot of time to learn a lot about this bike. But between trying to be safe and comfortable on it and trying out the different rain modes and technological features, while still trying to respect the bike and keep in mind that how it gets broken in and the condition of it long term is exactly going to affect me. Because this isn't one of those videos where I got to borrow it for 2 days and then all of a sudden it gets to go back to a dealership somewhere and I don't have to worry about how it's going to be at 30,000 miles. Because let's be honest, the coolest thing by far is the fact that when you're riding it, it sounds like a very angry bird is chasing you with all the chirps and pops that just attend to everything that this bike does. So I'm going to do a cold start on it, let it run for a few seconds, and then that's probably about it, because outside of talking about the technology, the gorgeous paint, the frame, the supercharger, the power in a very brief note, there's not too much I can truly add about it. The Rideology app, the amazing titanium exhaust, the tires, everything on it's been solid this whole time, but as you would expect, it should be for only 600 miles. We'll see how it unfolds over the next handful of thousand and see how this compares to a future review, probably at the end of the season come fall. We'll just have to see what happens, but here's a cold start in the meantime. And that's really it, guys. I really look forward to seeing what the future of this bike has and really diving down into its performance and what it can do after I do this next video. Probably tonight I'll do the first service and do a whole recording of how that's done top to bottom, every part, every note. Other than that, I wish you guys the best, and I hope that whatever bike you guys chase and whatever dream you go after, you achieve it. I'll talk to you later.